Keith, how you
Mitch,
doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great.
You doing well?
I'm doing great. This weekend's supposed to be gorgeous. Gonna plant an apple tree. It's gonna be great.
You still haven't planted that apple tree?
I got one left. I got 2 out of 3 before the weather got too cold, and I didn't make it in. The second one I had to do in the rain, so which was tough because the hole would fill, and then I'd have to bail out the hole. Yeah.
It sounds like you had a lot of determination with that second
I
apple tree.
needed to get that apple tree in, man. And it was a good time. We had a good time. And then our last one is going in this weekend. And
Does it make you anxious not having the last one in yet?
No,
Causing some anxiety. That's our topic for today.
It is a little bit because I hope it's not too late and then it dies, And I hope the 2 I put in does. I'm really hoping my anxiety is around the 2 that I put in. I hope that they don't die. And this last one that I waited for was like the thriving one of the 3, because then I'm going to be really upset I didn't wait for all 3. Because that was like what I was going to do. Like we got him, we picked him up, and then I was going to wait. But then I was like, man, I got time before this really cold spell comes in. And so now I am a little bit. And then one of the trees is kind of, in the crazy wind we got, started like lean in one direction.
Did you not put stakes in?
No, okay, so I got the stakes. I forgot the tree stakes, so I had to go back and get the tree stakes. Well, look, sometimes in life, you just have to admit you're not good at something, and someone else in your orbit is. And I could not figure this stupid thing out for the first tree, and my wife figured it out in like
It's a stick. You hit it with a
3
hammer.
seconds. No, it's the loop. I got one of those like that has the tire or the like the hose in it
Yeah.
too that then goes around it, but it's like it goes around and then it's got to go like, and then one it's like a tri thing, right? It goes one thing goes around, but then it kind of goes around again, and then the stakes I got, I just can't figure out the tri thing. It's like trying to figure out the Holy Trinity, man. I can't figure it out.
Okay.
Anyway, so and then Sean just walks up and goes, "You idiot," and was like, and then like did it.
Call you an idiot.
She inferred it. She inferred. So I bought the tree stakes, got the trees planted. I did all the heavy lifting, and I was like, "Hey, Shauna, I need those trees staked." She's like, "No problem." Well, it didn't get done. And then I'm like, "Hey, I'll go out with you." She's like, "It's too cold."
It was too cold. I fully agree.
It was like 2 minutes. Anyway, so yeah, I have a little bit of anxiety.
The older I get, the closer I want to be to the equator.
I like the cold. I just don't like working in the cold.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
So when it starts to snow, do you get a little anxiety going?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I've always had to deal with it.
So I think we've talked about this before, but I have chronic anxiety. Medically diagnosed. This isn't a self-diagnosis from WebMD.
Oh.
I'm not going to die from it, because like everything in WebMD is like, go to hospital.
Oh,
you might die.
Potential side effect is.
Right. So I have chronic anxiety, and I have to like tell myself sometimes to like stop, it gets really bad. Like if I'm got some anxiety about something and I go to bed, I'll usually dream about it. And then I'll wake up and then be like, oh, I should have done this and I should have done this and I should have done this. And that's
Question
kind of
for
a
you
lot
then.
of it. Yeah.
Do you Jesus tells us to don't be anxious about anything, but in all things, approach with prayer and petition to the Lord, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
paraphrased. So
That's pretty good.
do you have anxiety? I think, layman here, I think Jesus is specific or preferentially talking about things that are within your orbit of influence, right? As being those things that you worry about and have anxiety about. And like, do you, with with some chronic anxiety, do you have anxiety about things that are so far removed from you and
Yeah.
beyond control of yours?
Yeah.
That are those the things that you find to be the most bothersome, and things that are with
Not really. Like, look, good example, war breaks out somewhere. Not really that concerned with it. Like, I don't really get anxiety over
Okay.
it. I probably do pay attention to it more than other people because I want to know how it might affect our world. Like, our gas price is going to go up because of it. Is there going to be a food shortage because of it? So I mean, I maybe pay attention to it more than some people do. But I get more anxiety around, I'll give you a great example. This probably doesn't happen to you, but like if you get a text message from Adam, who's our boss,
yeah.
and it's like, hey, need to talk to you. Give me a call ASAP. Okay.
Okay.
My anxiety shoots through the roof. And then I start thinking about all the things that he might want to talk to me about.
Huh.
Did I leave the light on? Did,
Not unplug the toaster.
did I not unplug the toaster? And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then I'll call like immediately. Hey, what's up? Hey, just seeing how you're doing, Parker seemed a little down and out. He's doing okay. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't ASAP, man. You could have just like texted that to me. You know what I mean? Like it's whatever it is, it's just chill, right? But I like, like if I cut somebody off and then I get one of those text messages, I'm like, oh my God, did that person know me? Did that person know Adam? Like, did they call Adam and complain? You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. Like,
wow,
all these scenarios start playing out in my mind. And a really good example of somebody with high anxiety is if they do need to have a conversation with somebody about something and they think through all of what they're going to, like, if I need to approach you and be like, Mitch, I don't like your shirt today. Okay.
I don't either. I didn't shave my neck, and
is it getting a little scruffy?
Well, it's like a sweatery thing,
Yeah.
and it's like meshing with like where the beard hair becomes the chest hair.
I actually kind of like your sweater, but I was just using it. Like, if I was like, I love
it.
your sweater.
I was just saying I don't like it personally at the moment. It's kind of bothering my neck.
I would think through all of your responses.
Would you have came up with that one?
To then have a
counterpoint?
Like a counterpoint to it.
A safety measure.
Like if he goes there, I'm going here, right? Yeah. It's taxing.
Is it exhausting?
It is exhausting.
Being inside that mind?
It is. It never stops. But so I have to tell myself sometimes, like, whatever it is, it'll be okay.
Yeah, and I think
right?
I think that's what's hard too. Is like, because I don't really think, like, not all things, all directions from Jesus are applicable to all people, but at different levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a scripture I like.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult for me, right? This is easy.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally preach on that and be like, "Come on, people! Look, it just says right here,
don't be anxious.
Just don't be anxious."
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, for those listening, I just gave the biggest eye roll possible.
And then my wife would say, "I don't have to worry because she does it for me."
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm enabled.
Yeah.
Right? She's my
there's
worry
There's some things I don't worry about, though, that I probably should. Maybe I should rephrase. There's some things that I will worry less about than I probably should.
Do you, like, worry that you don't worry about them enough? Like, does that bother you? Like, you're like, oh, I should be more anxious about this. What's wrong with me?
No, like in my previous job, there was a lot of restructures, reorganizations. I would lose my job, but then they would put a different job that I'd have to apply for, and of course, I'm going to get the job, right? I'm the most qualified person for it. And so you should worry a little bit because you just lost your job. You got 30 days or whatever to find a new job. And then you find this job within 5 seconds that perfectly lines with your experience, right? And the hiring manager personally, and you like them and they like you, right? Like everything lines up. I don't worry then, right? Like I don't,
You have confidence.
I have more confidence, and because it's happened to me so much, like I think I went through 14 or 15
experiential
reorgs.
confidence.
Right. And so like there's been times where that's happened, and like Sean was like a nervous mess, and I'm like, nah, it'll be okay. She's like, no, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna eat? And I'm like, nah, it'll be fine. So yeah, there's some times where it's not, but no, I generally worry about everything.
Well, I want to bring in a little scripture and read a little story.
Oh, I love stories.
I know. I like stories too. And let's talk about some of the different characters in the story and how they position themselves and get into some fun stuff there. I want to read from Luke 10:38. And this is the Mary Martha story. And here we go. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. Pause there. Do you think it was like this, like, we're going to tell you exactly who they are, but we're going to leave it a little autonomous, right? Like, came to a certain village. I'm not going to name the village.
Oh, you think like at the time when they wrote it, everybody's like, I know what village they went to.
I know.
Right, but now we don't. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, or else they would have said it. Why didn't
they just say the name of the village? Maybe they didn't want to get anybody in trouble later.
Yeah. Right?
Right,
Okay.
like they didn't want the Romans hunting down Mary and Martha.
Okay, here we go. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, my dear Martha, you are all worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy that fed like thousands of people with a couple fish.
Yeah.
Like, do you really have to worry about dinner? Like, if Chef Gordon Ramsay showed up at your house and was like, hey, man, I want to talk to you about doing some like cooking lessons or whatever, you'd sit down and listen to him. You won't worry about making a meal. You got Chef Gordon Ramsay right here.
That's true. All right. I love your perspective.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that's, and Jesus did this too with the Samaritan at the well, right? It's like, hey, do you want to drink from a cup that, will quench your thirst forever, right? Yeah, where's this cup at,
So I think for me, when I boil this down, I think the important takeaway is the importance of relationship. So I think the most important part of our human experience is relationship experience. I think everyone should have a personal relationship with Jesus for their best life possible, and I think in doing that, it's hard to do in a silo.
I agree completely.
I'm sure there's some very successful Christian hermits, but I don't think that's like the design. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, Jesus said, wherever two or more of you,
Yeah.
So he didn't say wherever you are, I'll be there, right?
So I think relationship is important, and I think that's the point he's making is in this time that he's there at her home, he's available. Physically, personally, humanly available.
You can learn directly from him.
Available to Martha, and she's hustling and bustling and not participating in that relationship.
You can relate to this. You're a big host.
Yeah.
You like to have people over. You like to, and definitely in this culture, hosting is the most, people show up at your house. You're going to feed them. You're going to take care of them. You're going to make sure their feet are washed. They're, like you're going to do all these things because you're the host. They're the guest. So it's not that her actions are not necessarily out of place, right? it's the fact that her emotions are out of place.
And I think also it's kind of to the extent of which she's pursuing the quality of what her hosting is.
Right.
Jesus says, you're worried and upset over all these details.
Right.
Details.
It's not about cooking a meal. It's like this details.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have the fine linen on the table?
The soup's bubbling in the pot. We can eat it when we get to it.
Right.
Martha, you stop refolding the napkins.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that details part is important. And then he also says the only thing worth being concerned about. I think that's also another loaded word. I think you can be doing things, but to your point, like that mental fixation on stuff.
Yeah.
That concern over that detail, over that, like, all your cognitive energy is going there.
Yeah.
Not to where it should be.
Yeah. And and I think that this reminds me of, and we actually did a slight bit of research before this. Just a slight bit. But this does remind me of a very famous drama triangle, right? Because it's playing out in this story.
Yeah.
So the Karpman Drama Triangle.
We've talked about this with Adam. He's used this in a message, and it's the drama triangle. So, tell us more. We're through our three key players in the drama.
So in every personal drama issue, you're going to have somebody that is the victim, or as you would say better, playing the victim, because we want to be careful with using the word victim, because we're not talking about a victim of a crime or a earthquake or something like that. We're talking about when you've got this drama, right? So Martha is playing the victim.
Yep.
Right? She's going and saying, "Oh, come on, I need my sister Mary. Come on, I'm the victim, right?" You've got
she literally says, "Lord, doesn't it seem unfair?"
Unfair, right?
Like, this isn't fair.
This is not fair.
I think that is,
so she's playing the victim.
I think we confirm that in this quick scenario.
You've got a persecutor that the victim believes is persecuting them or doing them harm, which would be
Mary. She sits right there while I do all the work.
Right. So she's being persecuted, and then this victim is seeking out a rescuer in Jesus to come and rescue her as a victim from her persecutor.
Yep.
Right. And so, and Jesus takes that the best way possible, because a lot of times the rescuer tries to gets absorbed in the victimhood and is trying to be like a white knight and be a savior, but that victim almost never stops being a victim.
Correct.
He
would have been an enabler. If Jesus would have been like, well, Mary,
would you go help your sister?
Or Mary, go help your sister. Or he could have been like, well, Martha, I'll chop the carrots. And then, so then he's,
or
helping
just,
her.
Everybody, let's stop for a minute. Let's all go and help so that we can get dinner ready.
Put the attention on Martha.
Let's put the attention on our host. Right. Yeah. So it's this triangle, and
so actually
roles shift.
Yeah. It actually, like, Martha instigated the triangle.
Yeah.
And then Jesus instantly broke the triangle.
Yeah,
which is cool. So it never turned into what that Karpman drama triangle does. Is often in our normalness, when we enter into this triangle, we start shifting roles.
Right. Well, I was going to say, you could almost then say at that point, once Martha has said this, Mary can go from the persecutor to the victim now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And Martha can go to the persecutor, because now Martha is trying to get her in trouble. Like, so Mary could be like, look at me, I'm just trying to sit here and learn, and look at my sister just, persecuting me over here,
Yep.
trying to get me to, do all this stuff. Jesus, help me out here. You know what I mean? So,
Yep. So
those roles can shift based off of this dynamic. So Martha sees herself as the victim, but then ends up becoming the persecutor by approaching Jesus with it.
And then if Jesus wasn't who Jesus was, runs a really high risk of shifting to persecutor as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Which can then turn to victim whenever the whole thing blows up, and he's
Right.
like, I'm just trying to help.
I'm just trying to give you all godly advice,
Just try to help.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. He could,
Why is everybody mad at me?
he could have taken Martha's side and been like, Mary, go help. Well, then he becomes the persecutor of Mary, right?
Yep.
Who's now the victim of right? And then those, they just shifts and shifts and shifts. But instead he does the classic move, which is like, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me give you this kind of cryptic message that also is pretty plain at the same time, right? Like this really weird, instead of just being
Yeah,
like,
there's
look,
only-
hey, we're talking about salvation here, okay? Stop what you're doing. Sit down. Let's talk about salvation. But instead of doing that,
There's only one thing to be concerned about. Mary's discovered it,
yeah,
and it will not be taken away from her. I do like that, too.
I do.
He wasn't like saying, you don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
He's just saying, I'm not going to ruin it for Mary.
Right.
You do you.
You do you.
I'm not gonna take part in messing up what Mary's got going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I so intelligent of a response too, right? Like I think people miss that so much in a lot of this stuff, which is when Jesus needs to say something plainly, he does, and then like other times he said this pretty plainly, but you could read it and be like, what the hell is he talking about, right? So just very, very intelligent of an answer to not get sucked into that drama. Anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, but really, so I do want to give a little bit of, when you take the story too, like we easily are like, oh yeah, Martha, stop being such a busy bee achiever. Well, she's just filling in the cultural norm and expectation of,
And her anxiety's high.
filling in this cultural expectation of host. She's just doing the best of what's culturally expected of her at the time.
Right. And this is pretty deep into Jesus' ministry, right? And travelings. So like, I can imagine there's probably potentially hundreds of people there listening, right? Like this isn't early on where nobody knows who he is. So when he shows up, she's like, I'm going to host. So her anxiety goes up because she knows him. She knows his reputation. She knows all about him. So her anxiety is like, I got to make this perfect, right? Like she'd be like me, where I got to like, the turkey's got to be right for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I don't think she's worried about judgment from Jesus about what she's doing. But to your point, she's also trying to meet what she would perceive as a cultural expectation of excellence for Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? That's not...
Yeah, and she's probably putting pressure on herself. Like to your saying, I don't think Jesus would be like, oh, this turkey sucks, but she wants it to be. I mean, I would think that if Jesus knocked on my door and was like, Keith, let me come in, I'd kind of want to make sure the house is cleaned up. It's somebody of very high stature, right? So I don't think she's in the wrong place, but to Jesus' point of like, you can do all that and not worry about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's going to be fine. Come hang out with us, right?
I think that
This is more important than what you're doing.
Takeaway is perspective and relationship. You have to change your perspective so that you are valuing the relationship above non-human human things, right?
Yeah.
Like valuing the relationship beyond stuff. Something that doesn't have, personal worth and value like a person does. And changing your perspective to value the relationship with people above any other task or distractor.
Yeah, I think you're probably better at that than I am. And we talked about this before on the show. You're more of the host where you're still interacting with people and talking with people. That's what you really like, is the interactions and stuff like that. I'm more of, like, a great example. We had trick or treating last night. Shauna's brother and sister-in-law and their little one came over, and so I'm like, man, what am I gonna? Not that they said we're gonna come over, and then we were like, we'll have dinner, but it, you don't know what time they're coming over. The kids got to eat anyways. Trick or treating's at 6, right? Like, so I was like thinking about it, and then I hit up my wife. I'm like, hey, what do I do? Some take and bake pizzas. Sounds great. Okay, I've got some take and bake pizzas. I'm like thinking about it. I got to lay it out 60 minutes before I put them in.
Did you do the secret
No,
trick?
I did not. I did not, because I got a cheese.
We did a whole episode
because we had
about
kids.
this.
I know. And then I got a pepperoni and sausage, and so I was gonna put some onions and some black olives on it, but then I didn't know if everybody liked onions, so I just decided not to. But have you gotten their monkey bread?
I've not gotten
their garlic and butter monkey
garlic
bread. Like garlic.
That's
it's like
not monkey
garlic
bread.
It's like garlic bread, but it's like monkey bread.
Monkey bread is cinnamon and sugar.
They have a cheese one. I don't know if they call it monkey bread. I'm just calling it that because it's just globs of dough in a pan like monkey bread. It's not like a rolls or anything.
Garlic balls.
But it's like, yeah, it's like, just piled up in there. Delicious.
Okay.
Delicious. It was only like $7 or something for this giant thing of bread. Anyway, so I got that, got it all laid out, got them in the oven, got them cooking, timed it right. Okay, I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to cut them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Sean and the kids are all talking with the people here. I'm worried about, I'm not worried like I got anxiety, but I'm like, my job as the host is to make sure there's food. Hey, y'all want something to drink? I got some water. Cups right here. You want me to get you some water? You want a Coke? That's me as a host more.
Yeah, and I was in the exact same position last night, probably the exact same position because
you got take and bake pizza too.
No, we made meatloaf rats.
I know.
Meatloaf rats, delicious meatloaf in the shape of rats, little curly fried tails, black olive eyeballs, meatloaf rats.
Nice.
But I had my in-laws were over, and they, it's a lot of hustling and bustling going on in the kitchen to make that happen. But I kind of Martha'd it up so that my wife was participating in the relationship part.
Yeah, you were you took one for the team.
Well, yeah, but.
You went outside of what you would normally like to do.
Maybe the appropriate thing to do would have been to either have all the rats done ahead of time and microwave them for dinner, so we spend as much time
together
as
done
possible.
and then just
have
bake them off.
Yeah. So I don't know. Scripturally reflective. Maybe I was in the
a little too Martha mode. I was in the Martha mode too, but I didn't take it out on anyone else in the room.
Correct.
I think that's the key, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
I wasn't looking for somebody to help me. I just was like,
yes,
my job as the host is to do this stuff.
Oh my gosh, you cracked the code,
I'm going to do this.
Keith.
Yeah.
So when I've on occasion found myself in the Mary Martha scenario there. I've been like, oh my, I'm the one doing the hustle and bustle. But that's not the problem. It's not the hustle and bustle.
No.
It's the whining.
It's the whining.
It's the whining and asking Jesus to
get her some help.
to
Why
make
isn't this person helping?
to make the other person do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Thanksgiving. Shauna cooks most of the food. I've on occasion deep fried a turkey, but she is generally the cook, right? And I know in that mode, I'm the helper,
Sous chef,
right? So I'm there to, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Now, if I was watching football in the living room, just expecting all the food to get done, I think we would have a Martha and Mary moment. But I know in that instant, my job in the hosting process is to help sous chef. And I think that's what you gotta, I know we're all relating it back to hosting and stuff, but I think in life, that's what you gotta do. You have to realize, if you're in a meeting, what's your role in the meeting, right? Is your role to host the meeting? Are you in charge of it? Is your role to listen and come up with ideas? Is your role to listen, write down notes, and execute? And I think where the drama happens is when people don't understand their roles and their functions in maybe a situation.
and
Right?
then I think we sometimes succumb to the threat of entering the triangle,
Yeah. Like
Martha.
tree stakes.
Well, Martha enters the triangle by by playing the victim.
Yeah.
And it's not a triangle if Martha goes to Mary.
Yes.
That's not a triangle.
It's not a triangle.
That's just relationship.
That's just a relationship piece.
But when she was bringing in Jesus,
Looking for a savior.
then she created that triangle. And so...
Look, Jesus saves, just not in that relationship. That was a good one.
That was
good. No, but you know what this reminds me of too, is my middle schooler, right? My oldest. She'll hey, why do you have a C in language arts? The teacher did not give a grade on this, and I did the work. I didn't get a grade. It's a 0. I don't understand. Right? Victim. Persecutor. I'm trying to, and then I could step in and try to be the rescuer and call that mean teacher and be like, why didn't you give my kid this grade? But instead I back up, I pull Jesus stance, and I'm like, when was a project due? When did you turn it in? Have you sent your teacher an email saying that you turned it in? And then on the flip side of it, had you done this assignment and you got 100 on it, what would your grade be? Oh, it would go from a C+ to a C+. Okay, so why is it a C+? This one assignment didn't cause this, right? Like, it's 3 or 4 or 5 late assignments that have caused this. So the issue is you're late with your work. So let's work on that, right? Like, that's this exactly, right? And I think every middle school girl is constantly the victim.
All of us are constantly the victim. I think we've entered a.
Did I just offend all middle school girls?
No,
out
I
there?
think we just entered a very close to the heart issue of in the Keith's drama triangle.
Yes.
This got personal quick.
There's a lot of drama
and I think,
with middle schoolers.
Yes, and I think you became an ageist very quickly and stereotyping our middle schoolers.
Good thing middle schoolers don't listen to this.
That's true.
That's it. Look, we ran out of time.
This has been fun.
This has been fun. We're almost going to have to keep talking about this.
Yeah, and if you're interested in the Karpman, Karpman, Drama Triangle, go Google it and do a little more research. We found it fascinating and probably use it as a tool to dissect other stories and relationships.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
See you guys next week.